You're going to be having a debate in the coming months with Gene Epstein from the Soho Forum.
Right.
And I'm just wondering...
I believe he was an editor at the Wall Street Journal.
I think it was Barron's.
Okay.
For sure. But anyway, I think it's great that you're doing that. I think it's going to be awesome to have a really intellectual discussion on the merits of capitalism and socialism. I think that defining terms is really going to be important in that debate. But when you're up there on stage with him and he says that he wants a free society without coercion, and he points to the difference between North Korea and South Korea and East Germany and West Germany, and that a freer society is better, and America's great because it's free and because it's capitalist, and we have the freedom to make arrangements for how much we're going to get paid or where we're going to work or whatever. Just overall, when you're up on stage and he's making those arguments, what's going to be your main line of attack, or how are you going to refute those talking points?
Well, for me, it's always a bit of a conundrum how those kinds of arguments are made. Capitalism is the dominant system in the world and has been for at least 100, 150 years. It's overwhelmingly dominant. If by capitalism you mean the organization of production into the form of an employer and an employee, and if you're not distracted by whether the employer is a state official or a private citizen, because you've organized it that way, employer, employee. So for me, capitalism is the global system. So if you want to ask questions about freedom, I want you to talk to me about Haiti and Paraguay and Malaysia and Kyrgyzstan, because they're all capitalist, every one of them, and many, many more. And there's nothing remotely like your little story about the United States or East and West Germany or anything else, number one. Number two, freedom for what? What kind of freedom? In the Eastern Germany, everybody was guaranteed a job and everybody was guaranteed their income. They didn't have the freedom to speak politically, critically about the government. They didn't have those civil liberties, but they had other kinds of freedoms, which in the West you don't have. You don't have a guaranteed job, and you don't have a guaranteed income. Your employer can fire you whenever he wants. 7% of America's private employees are members of a union. Not that that's a great protection, but 93% don't have that. You could be fired tomorrow. You keep your job at the whim of an employer who for any reason can deprive you and your family of your income and give you a bad reputation and make you have a hard time getting any other kind. What are you talking about? Millions of people in this country have no medical insurance. They either don't go to a doctor, which millions don't, or they go to the emergency room at the nearby hospital, or they can sit on a gurney for 6 hours. But that doesn't happen in other societies. I've been ill in France. France has a national health service. That doesn't happen in France. What are you free for? In France, you're free of medical care. You will be taken care of with your medical needs from the time you're born to the time you die. You're free of the anxiety, which haunts Americans, that I will get terribly sick, that my insurance will cover none or only part of it, that I will not be able to, my marriage will not survive. One of the biggest reasons for divorce in this country are medical crises, or the financial consequences of medical crises. So, freedom is like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. You just racked up the freedom in those societies where you can make a comparison that makes your case. I understand, but that's kind of shoddy. There's other kinds of freedom, and the comparison doesn't work so well for you. That's okay. We can balance. We can talk about which kind of freedom you get here, but you don't do that. You want your audience, our people here, to believe that there's only one kind of freedom, the one that works for your comparison. You can't do that. That's crappy. I mean, I won't use such words, but it's what it is. It's a cheap shot. Stop it. Most people in the world are poor. We have 7.5 billion people on this planet. The populations of North America, Western Europe, and Japan are a small minority of all those people. Most of those other people are very poor, and they've been poor for hundreds of years. And what they want more than anything else is freedom from poverty. They want to have enough to eat and a decent shelter and an education for their children. Okay? So for them, to use economics, the biggest issue is to stop being poor and to become, as a society, richer. In the last 2 centuries, what were the 2 countries that grew fastest from poor to rich? In the 20th century, it was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. And in the 21st century, it's the People's Republic of China. No one comes close. I'm not advocating those societies. I'm not saying they're wonderful, or they don't have horrible problems that need to be solved. Don't play games. But if you understand what they achieved, often at horrific cost, of all kinds of costs they paid, but they did it. And the rest of the world is missing the point. And Americans can choose to look the other way. It's not going to change it. It's like a little child puts their hands in front of their face when they see the scary doggy, but then that scary doggy, as they get older, doesn't go away because you don't see it. So those people, for example, the people of China, they support their government. You know why? Because of what I just said. That's not blind. They understand that government is autocratic. They understand that government doesn't allow competing political parties, all the things we can point to. But we can point to what they're bad at, as long as we do this with some reasonable balance. And you, Mr. I don't know him personally, so you, Mr. Epstein, you're not doing that. I mean, I'll be very polite and all that, but you're not doing that. You're playing rhetorical games. And I mean, I understand it's a debate, and there's a little of that always, but come on, you know what I'm saying is true, but you're choosing somehow to not acknowledge it. Freedoms are of many different kinds, and where you see some, you don't see others, and vice versa, and that's got to be in this conversation, or else we're not having a conversation, we're having some other kind of event.